Right now, you're probably looking at the lens of my camera. But what if I do this? Same scene, but completely different experience. That's the power of light and the power of attention. That's where every shot starts for me. Not with the camera, but with curiosity. I move through the forest looking for the one thing that responds to light, because that's usually where the story begins. I don't always know how the final image will look, but when the light feels right, that's usually enough to slow down. I just finished placing the lights and everything is pretty much where I want it to be. So I'm gonna guide you through what I did. I'm gonna start by removing literally the last light I put. And for the other lights, I'm gonna use the app on my phone here to close them all and then do it again. So right now, as you can see, I made sure to get my camera angle really low, so it's gonna give me a nice blurred background. I underexposed the shot a little bit to make room for some lighting. So I'm gonna start by lighting up the light right in the bottom here, just to lit up a little bit underneath the stem. And it's really to help your subject separate, but you don't want to push it too far. You want to keep things balanced. That's with the light and without the light. So I really do love how this looks right there. Oh, see that? There's a fly on the mushroom. I think I get that. I should take a picture. Oh, she's gone. So in order to make sure everything is nice and balanced, what I like to do is get my image out of focus. So you can see right now the image is in focus. And when I put the image out of focus, I can immediately see what's standing out in the shot. And in this case right now, the background, or should I say the moss in the background, is too bright for me. So it's going to be easy for me after that just to dial in the correct exposure. And then I know my shot is balanced. Obviously, where you put lighting is going to draw the attention. So I made sure that I didn't lit too much of the moss on the sides of the frame. Because again, where you put light, it draws attention. In this case, I want the focus to be right in the middle of the frame. And again, I already know that there's a little bit too much light on top of the mushroom, so I'm simply going to put my hand while taking the photo, which will help to shape the mushroom even more. So here how this one turned out. Just one of a few I'll be capturing today. I'm curious, would you have composed it differently? Change the angle, the light, the mood? Because in the end, every day we shape our own experience by choosing where to look, what to hear, what to feel. Photography is the same. The challenge is not just seeing something interesting, it's helping others feel what you saw. And that's what this video is really about. Right, so I'll first grab a light because I always like to shape the scene with light before I even set up. Because the right highlight can turn something small like this into something that comes alive. So as you can see, I'm not rushing at all because I want to see how the light really interact with the subject before getting the camera out. So when I'm composing an image, it's always a matter of choosing what to include in the frame and what to left out. And in this case, there's a lot going on. And this small branch right here, even this small branch on top, is kind of bothering me a little bit. So I'm going to move a little bit closer and see the difference. I think there's a lot going on around this little moss ball. Sprouts, textures, background distractions. So I'm moving a little bit closer, not just to frame it tighter, but to clean up the chaos. Less clutter means more clarity. And that's where light comes in. Not just to reveal, but to guide the eye toward what matters. All right, so I just saw that my flexible LED light is in the top of the frame, but it doesn't bother me too much right now because I know I'm going to do something later. So I'm going to point the second light to try to highlight the side of the moss, something just like that. So when I'm building scenes like that, I always pay attention about what's in front of the subject and what's behind the subject. And in this case, the background is far away in the distance. Basically right now, if I'm taking the shot, the background's going to be blurred and it's going to be dark. And that's perfect with me. But I want to kind of mimic the sunrise. So I just grabbed a dead fern here just to try to mimic the sun rays coming from the left-hand side. Maybe create a more realistic image. So that's without the light and with the light, maybe something just like that. So as you can see, the sun is kind of coming out in the background. So I'm gonna take this shot before it hits the scene and ruin everything. So I'm gonna focus tag the image and focus on the closest part of the subject to the lens, making sure I get all of the subject in focus and let the camera do the rest. Let me know in the comment what you think about this one, and let's find another one after that. The more I shoot, the more I realize that each image changes the way I see everything around me. It sharpens my attention. So I'll keep exploring because there's still more out there to notice and maybe to understand. I think one interesting thing is that we're all able to shape our own experience. That means you can be looking at my glasses right now if you want. You can be looking at the bark of this tree. You can be stopping this video and talk to someone in front of you, or even play with your kids, or go in the forest and do a macro photography walk if you can. But the point is, you make these conscious decisions, and that's kind of the same thing when I'm doing photography or when I go about a composition. I need to be intentional about where I put the lighting, what I include in the composition and whatnot, because if I'm not intentional about it, I cannot expect the viewer to understand what I'm trying to convey in my images. So I think being able to shape our own experience is the most beautiful gift we all have. So my message here is be a little bit more intentional and focus on the right stuff. So this mushroom is really interesting. What I like to do first is play around with my camera without any tripod yet, just to get a sense of how I want to compose the image. And then when I have a rough idea, I'm going to put the camera on a tripod. So I think it's going to be something along these lines. So now I'm going to get the tripod. Before locking anything in, I like to stay flexible. Just moving around a little bit gives me a better sense of how the subject fits into its surroundings. Even small changes like lowering the tripod an inch can completely shift the background and bring out the story in the shot. So here I'm going to fine-tune the composition. There's a log in the background which creates a darker spot, and I like that darker spot. But right now, it's on top of the mushroom, and I want it to be right beneath the gill of the mushroom in order to help them separate from the background. So when I get the tripod a little lower, just like that, you see how much of a difference it makes. It almost feels like the mushroom, the shape of the mushroom is kind of mimicking the shape of the tree in the background. So slight movement like that can make a whole difference. All right, so now I'm pretty pleased with this composition. So I'm going to put a second light on the left side of the mushroom because just like reading, you know, you always read from left to right. And I think having your main light on the left side naturally draws the eye into the shot. And in this case, when I put the light like that and move it slightly towards the subject, just like that, not only it lit up the subject nicely, but also it lit up the moss in front of the mushroom, which creates a diagonal line and further helps, you know, draw the eye to the subject. All right, so now I'm almost ready to take the shot, but I feel like the mushroom could be a little more separated from the background. So again, I'll put the live view over there so you can see in real time the effect of this one. I'm just gonna play around a little bit. All right, so as you can see, we're getting somewhere, but I feel like the stem of the mushroom received a little too much light, especially in the bottom of the mushroom right there. So I'm gonna slightly bend the light upward, just like that, just to reveal the top part of the stem, maybe something just like that. That one's done, but there's more ahead. I've just spotted something else nearby that pulls me in for a completely different reason. It's not always beauty or perfection that catches your attention. Sometimes it's contrast. Life and decay side by side. It's appealing even if you can't quite explain it, and that's usually worth exploring. So this one right there really caught my attention. One has probably been eaten by a slug or something like that, and the other one's still standing. And I think there's something quietly emotional about it, like a small survivor still holding on or something like that. For the first light, I'm gonna grab a light panel, and I really want to light it from one side and let the shadow tell the story. So I'm gonna start by putting the light panel on this side just to try to give a nice 3D effect. All right, so now I really want to make the left side of the mushroom where the eye goes when it enters the shot. So not only this light's gonna help separate the subject from the background even more, but also it's gonna pick up a little bit of moss on the side and create a little bit more depth in the image. So just to give you another quick example of how powerful lighting is, if you literally look at this image right now, me talking, the thing that is standing out right now is this light over here. So you want to make sure that where you put the light on your subject is where you want to draw the attention. So in this case, I don't want to draw the attention on the right side, but I want it to help slightly highlight the subject and make it stand out a little bit more, but not too much. If I play around like that, this should be where I place this light. So I think I'm almost ready to take the shot, but there's something bothering me. I think the top part of the mushroom, or should I say the cap of the mushroom, is a little too bright. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna place my hand on top of it, and I think it's gonna help again create a nice 3D effect, because when you have light and shadows, it's gonna help you, reveal shapes. So I'm gonna put my hand just like that and only reveal maybe a little bit of light on top of the mushroom, but not too much. All right, so now I'm ready to take the shot. So I'm gonna show you how I go about focus stacking. The first thing you need to remember is always focus on the closest part of the subject to the lens, and then your camera is gonna do the rest by taking different steps of focus moving forward. So I'm gonna go in the menu and enable focus stacking, and then I'm gonna put it to 40 shots. I receive a lot of questions regarding focus increment. It's gonna tell your camera or your lens how far to go between each shot. So let's say you have shallow depth of field like I have because I'm shooting at f4. I don't want my focus to move too much between each shot because I'm gonna miss important part of the subject. It really depends on your aperture, how close you are to your subject, and how deep your subject is. Another important thing is to put a 2-second timer or a 10-second timer to make sure you don't introduce any shade to the camera while taking the shot, because a slight movement of your camera and it's not going to be able to focus stack and post-processing, which, if you're interested to know about which software I'm using for focus stacking, I'll leave it in the description. At the end of the day, it's not just about taking a great photo. It's about choosing what to focus on in your work and in your life, because where your attention goes, that becomes your experience. And over time, that becomes your story. Your day, your mindset, your relationships, all shaped by what you choose to see. So whether you're behind the camera or just walking through the world, choose your focus wisely, because what you focus on becomes everything. And whatever you do next, just keep moving.